In India and China and many other countries of Asia, there are legends about Buddha. Buddha appeared in many places, in many kinds of creatures, sometimes as a lion or a water buffalo or a deer, and sometimes as a holy man. Once he appeared as a peddler. A grandmother and a little girl lived together in an old house with a leaky roof. In winter, they shivered from the cold and the rain. Once upon a time, they had been part of a rich and happy family, but everyone in the family had died. They were the only two left, and now they were very poor. All through the year, they were hungry for lack of food and the lack of money to buy food. On one particular day, when the little girl was begging for something to eat, for a little rice, the grandmother said to her, "We have nothing to eat, dear. There's only one thing left to sell." "What is it, grandmother?" "It's the old kettle. It's so black with soot from so many fires that I can't imagine anyone wanting it." Just then they heard a voice from the street calling, "I'll buy your pots and pans, your bottles and your rags. I'll buy your pots and pans, your bottles and your rags." "Go quickly," said the old lady. "Call him in. If this peddler buys our kettle, we will have food to eat." So the little girl rushed down the street and brought the peddler back with her. "What do you want?" he asked in a rough voice. "Have you something to sell?" The old lady said, "All we have is this black kettle. Will you buy it?" "What good is it? Let me see it." He took the old kettle and looked at the inside and the outside. "It's old," he said. "It's black with soot. It's nothing but an old black pot." Then the peddler scratched the kettle. Underneath the black soot he found copper with silver and gold inlay. He didn't let on, by the look of his face or by his voice, that he knew how valuable it really was. He said, "It isn't worth much, hardly anything at all." "Well, what will you give us for it?" anxiously asked the old lady. "I'll give you 2 rupees. That will be much more than it's worth. That's all I'll give. Take it or leave it." And he tossed the kettle back on the stove. "Call me back if you want me," he said, and with that he walked away down the street. The old grandmother was very, very sad. "What shall we do? What shall we do?" cried the little girl. And just then from down the street came the sound again. "I'll buy your pots and pans, your bottles and your rags. I'll buy your pots and pans, your bottles and your rags." "That can't be the same man," said the grandmother. "The voice sounds different. Call him in, call him quickly." The second peddler came to the door. He had a cheerful and friendly face. "What can I do for you?" he asked. "I buy old things and new things, anything at all. I pay what things are worth, a fair price. Have you anything to sell?" "We have only one thing left to sell, this black kettle. We hate to part with it, but will you buy it?" "Let me look at it," said the peddler. He weighed it in one hand and he weighed it in the other. "It's very heavy," he said. Then he scratched it through the black soot down to the metal underneath. "Do you know what this kettle is made of?" he asked. "No, it has hung over many a fire. I can't remember what it looked like when I was a child." The old lady was very anxious. "Please tell me," she said. "It must be worth more than 2 rupees. Isn't that so?" The peddler laughed a hearty laugh. "Indeed it is, my dear. It's worth a fortune. It's very well made. It's very old. It's a beauty. It's made of copper inlaid with silver and gold." "Oh my, what a find! What a discovery! And what made you ask me was it worth more than 2 rupees? "Why, a peddler came by just an hour ago. He said it wasn't worth much. He offered us 2 rupees, that's all." "Oh no," said the peddler. "Will you pay us what it's worth?" asked the old grandmother. "All my wares and money are not equal in value to the worth of this old kettle. I'll give you what I have, and I promise to bring you more. You need no longer go hungry." "Bless you," said the old grandmother. Later that day, a man stood in the doorway. It was the first peddler. "Well," he said, "have you decided?" He had a hard time hiding his eagerness to get the black kettle into his hands. "We've sold it," said the grandmother. What? What? You've sold it? Woe is me. I've lost a fortune." When he had gone, the little girl said, "Grandmother, why did the first peddler say the kettle was worthless? And why did he come back and then groan so? And why did the second peddler say he would pay us what it was really worth?" The grandmother smiled. "The world is full of many kinds of people," she said. "You see, Buddha comes among us in many ways. If it weren't for an honest man, how could we live?"